Vital ammunition for Israel's devastating assault on Gaza has been quietly shipped through UK airspace on a series of secretive flights. This has been revealed by my colleague, John McAvoy.
Thank you for having me again, Phil.
Can you tell us about your latest article for Declassified UK?
Yeah, so what we found is that 8 separate flights have gone through British airspace carrying arms for Israel, for which are due to be used in its genocidal war in Gaza. And now this might be only the tip of the iceberg because it's only these 8 flights that we currently know about, and we only know about this because a freedom of information request was issued in Belgium, and the information that came out of that was that these 8 flights, actually more than 8 flights, but only 8 went through British airspace. But a number of flights had been passing through Liège Airport, carrying hundreds of tons of munitions bound for Israel. And following this, Irish news website The Ditch revealed that a number of these flights, 8 of them, had passed through Irish airspace. And I mean, this was a major problem in Ireland because supposedly these airlines, Challenge Airlines, it's a US-Israeli airline, they had not, in fact, issued applications to fly through Irish airspace with munitions of war. So it's very likely that these flights have been passing through Irish airspace illegally.
So is it legal for planes carrying weapons to pass through UK airspace? Do they need permission from anyone?
Ordinarily, it's necessary to issue an application to the Civil Aviation Authority to say, are we allowed to carry these munitions through British airspace? And we asked the Civil Aviation Authority whether these applications had been issued and whether they had been granted. They didn't get back to us at the time of publication. They still haven't responded. So, I mean, the possibilities are basically that either the applications were issued and they were granted, and this provides another layer of complicity in Israeli war crimes, or they weren't issued and they've actually been flown through British airspace illegally. Or the third possibility is that there's some kind of standing arrangement between the US, Britain and Israel that applications are not necessary to bring munitions of war through British airspace, which are going to end up in Israel. Now, any of these eventualities is important, right? And so we need to know precisely what the process is by which munitions of war are being brought through British airspace for Israel.
In your article, John, there's quite a remarkable breakdown of the kind of ammunition that's being shipped to Israel during its assault on Gaza, which suggests it's the type of weaponry that it's running out of because it's just simply used so much of it there. Now, on flight tracking websites alone, we wouldn't get that breakdown, and it's because another group managed to obtain the flight manifest that we've been able to see exactly what was on board. Can you tell us more about that ammunition that's being shipped to Israel and how it relates to many of the civilian casualties that we're seeing in Gaza?
The main kind of types of munitions that we found were on these flights were detonators that can be used basically to detonate bombs, particularly bombs that are being, used in airstrikes from Israeli fighter jets. One of the most concerning things that we found was sniper bullets, .338 caliber sniper bullets that are being transported to Israel. And we know throughout the genocidal war in Gaza, the Israeli forces, the IDF, are consistently using snipers. The harrowing stories from snipers stationed outside of hospitals, shooting into the hospitals, shooting medical personnel. We've had a number of cases of Palestinian children being shot in the head by Israeli snipers. So there's a very good chance that this sniper ammunition that is being flown through British airspace is being used in some of the most horrific war crimes imaginable in Gaza at the moment. And what's extra concerning about this is that the Labour government has recently announced that it's going to suspend 30 odd arms export licenses to Israel out of around 350. So that's about 8.5%. Now, we need to know whether these arms flights are still passing through British airspace, right? Because they may have cancelled or revoked temporarily some licenses which may be used for violations of international humanitarian law in Gaza. But if they're still allowing that same weaponry to pass through British airspace, then that's a contradiction, right? And that shows that the British government is not actually serious about, not being complicit in Israeli war crimes.
In terms of broader complicity, we've previously exposed how Israeli military flights were allowed to land in the UK since October the 7th, with no transparency about who or what was on board. Now, as a result of our reports on that issue, the Scottish Government actually revoked permission for any future Israeli military flights to land in Scotland, but there was no similar action in England or Wales. Your latest report about these flights carrying weapons for Israel passing through UK airspace built on a report by another outlet that showed it passing through Irish airspace, which sparked much more outcry in Ireland than your story has here. Can you tell us about that, and why do you think there's such a difference in reaction?
Yeah, the reaction in Ireland has been much more powerful, really. Almost immediately after the Ditch started publishing their series of investigations on the flights for Israel going over Irish airspace, there was a reaction from the government. In fact, numerous different ministers have kind of been forced to respond. One of the earliest responses was that, that I think from the Ministry of Transport, to clarify that they hadn't in fact issued any of these grants for, the cargo flights to overfly Irish airspace, suggesting that they have actually been flying over Ireland illegally. The Irish population in general are more conscious of the Palestinian cause. There is much more pro-Palestine as a country, and the government as well is more pro-Palestine. So, it can be expected that the response has been much more, much stronger in Ireland. And, we already know that the UK government is complicit in the genocide. I mean, we know that the UK government is actually licensing arms to Israel, right? So it's not altogether surprising that, Britain is allowing these flights to Israel to pass through British airspace. But it does reveal, another layer of complicity in the genocide. And it also reveals that, the US is, many of these munitions, in fact, were actually funded by the US government. So the US government is kind of using Britain as a transit route to ship arms to Israel. So, even Britain is not only complicit in the arms that it's selling, or the arms that is approving the sale to Israel, is also complicit in the arms, and a much more significant amount of arms, and a much more lethal weaponry that the US is sending to Israel as well. So that's, I think that's very important. Although, I'm not altogether surprised that we haven't had a state response in the same way that Ireland has.
Thanks for joining us today, John, to tell us about your latest article for Declassified. I've put a link to it in the video description below so people can read the full story. Thank you for watching this video. If you haven't subscribed already, please press the button below. And if you want to help us do more articles like this, you can make a donation through the Super Thanks button, or by going to our website, where you can join Declassified from £3 a month. Thanks for watching.